January 1944. Dawn breaks over the frozen fields outside Kassel. The air smells of burned oil and wet steel. In a shattered rail yard, German officers stand silently beside the wrecks of their own armored columns, Panzer IVs and Panthers reduced to twisted holes by Allied airstrikes. Somewhere in the distance, a factory siren howls, but here there's only the sound of wind passing through broken metal, a hollow whistle through empty tank turrets. This moment matters because by 1944, the war had become a contest not just of tactics or courage, but of industrial endurance. Germany had built its military doctrine on speed, precision, and the belief that superior engineering could overcome numerical disadvantage. Blitzkrieg assumed short wars, decisive blows, and enemies unable to recover quickly. What these officers were confronting now was the collapse of that assumption. Every destroyed tank on the Eastern Front or in Normandy had once represented months of labor, scarce raw materials, and a fragile logistical chain. Losses were no longer temporary setbacks, they were wounds that did not heal. What German officers expected was familiar from earlier campaigns. In 1940 and 1941, enemies struck by German armor, France, the Balkans, even the early Soviet forces, struggled to replace losses. Factories bombed or overrun took years to rebuild. Production schedules slipped. Spare parts vanished. A destroyed enemy tank often meant one less tank for the rest of the war. German planning manuals and intelligence estimates were shaped by this experience. Industrial output was assumed to be finite, slow, and vulnerable. What they encountered instead was something entirely different. Reports filtering back from the front described American armored units returning weeks after annihilation, fully re-equipped. Units shattered in Tunisia reappeared in Italy. Tanks destroyed in Normandy were replaced before the tracks of the previous battle had cooled. To German officers trained to calculate attrition carefully, this bordered on the unbelievable. The evidence was impossible to ignore. American tank production figures told a story that defied European precedent. In 1940, the United States produced fewer than 400 tanks. By 1942, that number exceeded 24,000. In 1943, American factories rolled out over 29,000 tanks, more than Germany produced in the entire war. The M4 Sherman, often dismissed by German crews as inferior in armor or firepower, arrived in relentless waves. For every Sherman destroyed, 2 or 3 more seemed to appear. Captured German documents reveal growing alarm. A 1944 Wehrmacht logistics assessment noted that, quote, enemy armored losses appear to have no lasting operational effect. Another report from Army Group West observed that American units, quote, recover combat capability with remarkable speed, attributing this not to battlefield skill alone, but to industrial capacity beyond previous assumptions. These were not words of propaganda, but of professional officers grappling with a strategic reality they could not counter. The contrast was stark. German tank factories struggled under Allied bombing, shortages of skilled labor, and increasingly complex designs that slowed production. The Panther, technically impressive, required nearly twice the man-hours of a Sherman. Each destroyed Panther was a significant loss. Each destroyed Sherman was a statistic. German officers began to understand that they were fighting not just American soldiers, but American factories, vast, distant, and untouched by war. One symbol recurs again and again in their accounts, the assembly line. Not a weapon, not a commander, but a moving belt of steel and labor. American factories, particularly those in Detroit and the Midwest, operated around the clock. Ford's Willow Run plant produced a bomber every hour. Tank plants adopted similar rhythms. Standardization replaced craftsmanship. Parts were interchangeable, repairs were fast. tanks were not treated as irreplaceable masterpieces, but as tools meant to be used, lost, and replaced. This realization carried a deeper psychological impact. German military culture prized engineering perfection and individual mastery. The American approach seemed crude, even wasteful, until its results became undeniable. Officers who once scoffed at the Sherman's thin armor now faced battalions replenished overnight. The sounds of American engines returning to the front became a kind of industrial heartbeat, steady and unstoppable. Perceptions shifted. Some German officers began to question the ideology that had led them here. The Third Reich promised technological supremacy and national destiny, yet could not match the productive power of a society mobilized voluntarily, with factories run by civilians earning wages rather than coerced laborers. The American tank was no longer just a vehicle, it became a symbol of a system that valued quantity, flexibility, and the lives of its soldiers over mechanical perfection. By late 1944, the conclusion was unavoidable. No matter how skillfully German crews fought, no matter how many Shermans burned on the battlefield, the outcome was already being decided thousands of kilometers away, on factory floors lit by electric lamps and governed by time clocks instead of ideology. One German officer, writing after the war, reflected that, quote, "We counted tanks. They counted hours." It was an admission that the war had moved beyond traditional measures of valor and tactics. The transformation was profound. Where German officers once believed destruction equaled progress, they now saw futility. Every American tank destroyed only proved that another would soon take its place. Attrition, once a weapon, had become a trap. The industrial imbalance reshaped not just strategy, but belief itself. In the end, the assembly line remained, silent on the battlefield, invisible to the infantrymen, yet decisive. It represented abundance without conquest, power without occupation. As the war closed and the factories continued to run, the lesson endured. Freedom, when organized and mobilized, could outproduce tyranny. Steel could be melted and reforged faster than ideology could adopt. And in that relentless rhythm of production lay a larger truth, that wars are not only won by those who fight, but by those who can rebuild faster than they can be destroyed.